Aryna Sabalenka, that's her name. I'm bringing her up because even though she was the #1 player in the world, I don't think she should be that way now, not after this loss. It should be you. But I'm asking, what is her problem? Somebody got to ask this question. She came across as a very sore loser after she lost to you.
Stephen A. Smith isn't known for pulling punches, and this time his target was Aryna Sabalenka. After Coco Gauff's thrilling French Open comeback, Sabalenka didn't just lose the match, she lost her composure. And now, Stephen A. has called her out for showing zero class after being defeated by a 21-year-old who handled herself like a pro. Question: was Sabalenka simply emotional or just plain disrespectful?
What is up with her, and how much of a motivation was it that you were going up against her as opposed to just being in a title match?
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to play the best player in the world, and with the results and the rankings, she proved that she's the best player in the world. And obviously, maybe it might be different after yesterday, but yeah, I think for me, I wanted that matchup. I didn't want an excuse, especially I feel like people always try to make excuses as to why I win. So I was like, I want to play and give people, like, I played the best player in the world and I can beat her. And I did it in US Open. She was ranked #2, finished that #1. And yeah, the comments yesterday, or after the match.
It was windy. She blamed the wind.
Those comments I was a little bit surprised by them. But like at the end of the day, I mean, what happened. I won because I earned that win. And we both had to play in the win. We both had to deal with those conditions. I didn't feel great on the court at all. I went down 4-1. I thought I was playing the worst tennis of the tournament. But I think the difference was I was able to recognize that and find a different way to try to win that match.
Coco Gauff's latest win wasn't just another tennis highlight. It was a reminder of why she's the future of the sport. She was down 4-1 against the world's #1 player and somehow flipped the match into a statement victory. By the end, she wasn't only lifting the trophy, she was making history as the first American woman to win the French Open since Serena Williams in 2015.
Yeah, honestly, guys, this one hurts so much, especially after such a tough 2 weeks playing great tennis and in these terrible conditions, show such terrible tennis in the final. That's really hurt, but it's okay. Anyway, Coco, congrats in these tough conditions. You were a better player than me.
But instead of praising the young champion, Aryna Sabalenka's post-match remarks left fans shaking their heads. She blamed the conditions, talked about the wind, even mentioned being too emotional. Anything but admitting that Coco outplayed her.
Do you think there was a momentum shift in the first set because you started the match really well? You led 4-1. What happened at 4-1? Do you think that Coco got better or the conditions got tougher?
Yeah, I think it was more windy and got more windy, and also I think I was over emotional, and I think today I didn't really handle myself quite well mentally, I would say. So basically that's it.
It came off as pure excuse-making. Tennis fans know that both players face the same wind, the same surface, and the same pressure. The only real difference is how you deal with it. And Coco dealt with it like a veteran, composed, steady, and confident. Sabalenka, meanwhile, sounded like someone trying to protect her pride rather than face the fact that she got beaten fair and square.
I think today I didn't really handle myself quite well mentally, I would say. So basically that's it. I was just making unforced errors. Like, I don't know, I have to check the statistics. I think she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, like, if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy balls.
That's exactly the kind of thing that gets under Stephen A's skin. During his post-match reaction, he practically tore Sabalenka apart for refusing to give credit where it was due. He pointed out how ridiculous it sounded for the #1 player in the world to blame weather instead of skill. His reaction struck a chord because it echoed what fans were already thinking. Sabalenka's words made her look less like a champion and more like someone allergic to accountability. And when you've built your brand on being the best, that's a bad look. Coco's performance, on the other hand, couldn't have been more different. She stayed calm, took a break between sets to regroup, and came back playing smarter tennis. That adjustment, finding new ways to win when things aren't going your way, is exactly what separates champions from everyone else. Stephen A. highlighted that difference clearly. One player complained, the other adapted. One blamed the environment, the other took control of it. The contrast couldn't have been more obvious. To make it even worse, this isn't the first time Sabalenka has struggled to handle losing to Gauff. Their rivalry goes back to 2023 when Coco beat her in the US Open final. Back then, Sabalenka at least handled defeat with some grace. She congratulated Coco, smiled for cameras, and seemed to move on. But now, in 2025, after losing again on one of the biggest stages in the world, that professionalism disappeared. It's almost as if the frustration finally boiled over. She couldn't stand the fact that this young player, someone 10 years younger, had her number twice on the biggest stage. Stephen A. hammered that point home, calling her reaction embarrassing for someone who calls herself the best. When you're number one, you set the tone for the sport. You're supposed to show composure, not excuses. And here's where it gets interesting. Coco Gauff didn't even bite back. She could have clapped back publicly or thrown shade online, but she didn't. Instead, she took the high road, simply acknowledging that both players faced the same conditions and that she earned her win. That's the kind of quiet confidence that drives opponents crazy, and it's probably what made Sabalenka's loss sting even more.
I mean, she's probably emotional about it, so I'm not gonna take it with too much anything. And I do hope people give her a little bit of slack.
Fans instantly noticed the contrast. Coco handled victory with class. Sabalenka handled defeat with bitterness. That's all it took for the internet to explode, with reactions calling Sabalenka a sore loser and praising Coco for her maturity. Sports media outlets jumped in too. Some called Sabalenka's words tone-deaf. Others said she disrespected not only Coco, but also the game itself. The whole situation turned what should have been a great final into an awkward reminder that not every star knows how to lose gracefully. And that's when Stephen A. took things further. He started comparing the situation to legends like Serena Williams, someone who faced much harsher conditions, louder critics, and far higher stakes, yet never tried to discredit her opponents. Serena could lose and still command respect. Sabalenka, on the other hand, sounded like someone who needed an excuse to feel better about herself. That's where the sarcasm came in. Stephen A. basically implied that blaming the wind was the weakest defense he'd ever heard from a professional athlete. He said, if the wind was really that big of an issue, maybe Sabalenka should have asked for a roof instead of a racket. The moment went viral because it summed up exactly how fans felt. Tired of overpaid athletes acting like the laws of physics only affect them. Everyone deals with the same wind, the same bounce, the same tension. Coco just did it better. By this point, Sabalenka's PR team probably wished she'd never opened her mouth. Within hours, clips of her press conference were everywhere, side by side with Coco's calm and thoughtful interview. The difference was almost comical. One sounded whiny and defensive, the other confident and grounded. It's one thing to lose a match. It's another to lose the respect of fans and peers in the same breath. When reporters asked other players about it, a few politely said they understood emotions, but their tone said it all. No one was defending her. Because everyone's been there, but not everyone throws blame around after losing. Even tennis legends weighed in, saying that Coco showed the kind of focus and maturity that defines great champions, while Sabalenka's reaction showed she still has a lot to learn. And that's really what Stephen A. was hammering home. Not just that Sabalenka lost, but that she lost badly. Not on the scoreboard, but in how she handled herself afterward. He made it clear that moments like these define how fans remember you. People forget scores, but they remember attitudes. Serena, Federer, Nadal, they built legacies not only through wins, but through grace and defeat. Sabalenka, on the other hand, looked like someone who couldn't handle sharing the spotlight. The funny thing is, Sabalenka later tried to explain herself in another interview, saying she'd spoken out of frustration and didn't mean to downplay Coco's performance. But the damage was already done. Once the public decides you sound salty, there's no walking that back. Coco, meanwhile, handled it perfectly. She said she understood that emotions run high, but made it clear she earned that win. That subtle mix of empathy and quiet confidence? That's what made people fall in love with her even more. By the time the dust settled, one thing was obvious. Coco's maturity made Sabalenka's reaction look even worse. Stephen A. summed up what everyone else was thinking. Coco didn't just beat Sabalenka on the court. She beat her in composure, in class, and in how she represented herself afterward. The reaction online was wild. Sports fans who usually never agree on anything suddenly united over one thing: that Aryna Sabalenka had crossed a line. People were saying that blaming the wind and downplaying Coco's performance made her sound like a player who couldn't accept reality. Some even joked that maybe the wind was ranked #1 now, since it apparently beat her too. For days, her comments were everywhere. Memes, tweets, and short clips flooded timelines. And while Sabalenka was getting dragged, Coco was getting love from all corners of the sports world. Everyone admired how she stayed calm, never threw shade back, and just kept letting her tennis talk. That's what made Stephen A. Smith's take even more powerful. He saw what was happening and decided it was time for someone to say out loud what fans had been saying online. His point wasn't just about this one match, it was about a pattern. When athletes lose, especially at the top level, people expect professionalism. Blaming outside factors like the wind or luck just sounds desperate. It takes away from the sport. And when you're supposed to be the best in the world, that kind of behavior is even harder to excuse. Sabalenka's reaction might have been emotional, but it also showed something deeper: insecurity. The truth is, Coco Gauff has become a major threat to her dominance. Twice now, in major finals, Coco has outplayed her. Once could have been luck. Twice is a sign. And Sabalenka knows it. Meanwhile, Stephen A. made it clear that Coco represents something bigger than just another talented player. She's the face of a new generation that combines confidence with composure. She doesn't talk trash, she just wins. And when things go wrong, she adjusts instead of complains. The funny thing is, Coco herself mentioned how she wasn't even playing her best tennis. She admitted that at one point during the match, she thought she was playing terribly, but instead of spiraling, she found another way to win. That's what champions do. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They create them. Stephen A. used that to make a point about attitude. He said that when you look at legends like Serena or Federer, they've all had bad days, but they never blamed the weather, the crowd, or the ball. They blamed themselves, learned, and came back stronger. That's why they became icons. And that's why Coco is already walking that same path. By the time the clip of Stephen A.'s rant went viral, fans were praising him for saying what needed to be said. It wasn't just about defending Coco. It was about holding athletes accountable when they act like they're above criticism. Because the truth is, greatness doesn't come from titles alone. It comes from how you carry yourself when things don't go your way. Sabalenka eventually tried to clean things up with a public statement. She said her comments were misunderstood, that she didn't mean to disrespect anyone, and that emotions got the best of her. Which honestly, just sounded like damage control. Everyone could tell it was too little, too late. Even tennis insiders admitted that her words had created unnecessary drama. Instead of focusing on how amazing the match was, the headlines were all about her attitude. And when that happens, it's a sign you've messed up. Coco's performance should have been the story, but Sabalenka's ego made sure it wasn't. The whole thing reminded fans of other times Stephen A. has called out athletes for bad behavior. Whether it's basketball, football, or now tennis, he always goes after the same thing: people who can't handle accountability. And his reasoning is simple. When you're at the top, people look up to you. You set the standard. If you whine when you lose, what message does that send to everyone watching? That's why this moment hit harder than usual. It wasn't just about tennis, it was about sportsmanship. Coco Gauff, at 21, showed more maturity than someone who's been on tour for years. And that contrast made Sabalenka's reaction look even worse. Fans were quick to point that out too. Many said Coco reminded them of Serena in her early years. Fierce, confident, and unbothered. Others said she's building her own legacy, one that's based not on controversy but on discipline and poise. The timing couldn't have been better either. Coco's win came at a time when women's tennis desperately needed a new global face. Someone relatable but dominant, humble but fearless. And just like that, she became the headline star the sport needed. Meanwhile, Sabalenka looked like the opposite, the example of what not to do after a loss. Even her fans struggled to defend her comments. A few tried saying she was just emotional, but the general opinion stayed the same. She disrespected Coco, and Stephen A. was right to call her out. The irony is, Coco didn't even seem fazed. In every interview afterward, she talked about improving, learning, and staying focused. She said she wanted her tennis to speak louder than anything else. And that's exactly what it did. That's why this story didn't just end at the French Open. It became a turning point. The moment Coco officially stepped into the spotlight as not just a great player, but as the new face of class in women's tennis. Stephen A. said that every sport needs an athlete like her, someone who proves that confidence and humility can exist together. He said, Coco's reaction after winning showed more leadership than Sabalenka's did after losing. And honestly, that's the truth. While Sabalenka was busy defending her comments, Coco was training again, already looking ahead to the next tournament. That mindset says everything about the difference between them. One is chasing respect through excuses, the other earns it through results. Even sponsors started paying attention. Brands that work with Coco highlighted her grace under pressure. They know that her reputation isn't built on controversy. It's built on consistency. And that's gold in sports marketing. Sabalenka, on the other hand, had to deal with awkward press conferences and uncomfortable headlines. In short, one came out looking like a role model, the other looked like a sore loser. And let's not forget how the fans handled it. Social media was full of clips comparing Coco's calm interview to Sabalenka's defensive one. One showed Coco laughing and thanking fans, while the other showed Sabalenka frowning and talking about the wind. The difference was night and day. Coco's victory speech, her poise in interviews, and her ability to keep her cool, all of it made her look like the future of tennis. Sabalenka's comments, on the other hand, made her look stuck in the past. So, what do you think? Was Stephen A. too harsh? Or did Sabalenka deserve every word of that criticism? Because honestly, if you lose and still blame the wind, maybe it's time to rethink who the real champion is. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories just like this one.